Hello, John here. Um, I'm not sure who will kind of necessarily take kind of value from this video, so it's not going to be anything to do with music or singing or anything like that. Um, I just wanted to talk about my dog Molly. It was something I'd kind of wanted to make a video like this, a few months back, but for anyone who doesn't know, Molly died 6 months ago yesterday. So I kind of wanted to do something. It seemed like a significant enough amount of time to kind of go, okay, we're at the 6 month mark now, and yeah, I'd wanted to do something like this earlier, but um, it was still kind of too soon maybe to kind of talk about it too much, or you know, um, but yeah, it's just when in the first couple of weeks. Certainly for the first, week or so after Molly died, I was, on YouTube looking at, um, videos to do with, pet grief and pet loss, people talking about their dogs and their cats and whatever, and it was good to kind of see people kind of a few months down the line who looked like, oh, they seem to be living their life again. They kind of seem okay, Um, and so I don't know. I thought maybe me kind of making a video like this might kind of help. There might be someone else kind of, you know, uh, they might have only recently experienced the loss of a dog. I mean, any pet, but like obviously, I've always been a dog person, um, and yeah, like compared to those first 2 weeks, um, where I was about to say we're rough, but I wasn't trying to make a an off color pun, um, but I mean, I would have found it hard to laugh about her honestly in the first 2 weeks. But yeah, I don't know how long this video is gonna go on for. I have a tendency to um get lost in what I'm saying and go off on tangents and whatever. But um, so I don't know. I might only talk for 5 minutes. I could talk for half an hour. I don't know. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of pay tribute to Molly is what I'm getting at in a roundabout way, because she was just such a weird she was just such a unique dog, Um, and I'd always had dogs. My family, my household, we've always had, you know, as long as I was alive, I remember us having dogs in the house. My siblings have all had um dogs again, but there was just something so different, so quirky about Molly that we used to joke that she was like the smartest idiot because she was so clever. Like, she was a border collie, and border collies are kind of among the more clever breeds of dogs. And she was really sharp with some stuff. Just her recall, for commands and stuff are very good. Um, and just being able to kind of like she understood waiting at traffic lights, waiting for car. Like when I take her on walks sometimes, I'd have obviously if she was going to walk out onto the road, I'd stop her, But I'd be curious to see sometimes if we came to a set of lights, um, kind of what would happen, and so we'd walk. I'd kind of let her take the lead, and we'd get to the side of the road, and I'd see her. She'd look both ways, and then she'd go, right, no cars, time to cross. And she totally got it. Sometimes she'd anticipate, she'd hear the noise, and she'd go, oh no, oh there it is, yeah, there's the car. I thought so, But then at other times she would just walk into closed doors. So um, that's kind of what I mean by the just her being like such a clever idiot. Um, she actually, I've got a little cushion over there. Look at that little goon face. Um, my little sofa here. She only actually ended up sitting on this sofa, and I'll tilt down so you can see it there. My little sofa I have here in my room. She only ended up sitting there 2 or 3 times. I only kind of really finally had this room set up, kind of like while she was sick. which I suppose I'll get into now. Oh, actually, also I should have mentioned earlier. Um, Here we go. I wasn't sure how clear that shot was, but yeah, so I'm wearing my my comically oversized Molly t-shirt as part of this little tribute video. But yeah, she so back in, what are we at now? November, last September. Molly very suddenly. Well, I mean, it's hard to know how sudden, but for us it was sudden. Um, she got sick, and it was only we only that I would, what I'd call him. I can't remember, but I'd always just I loved tickling under her chin like that. Get from the front, you go get a little, and yeah, one day I noticed a couple of little our glands are swollen. I'm like, that's a bit worrying. Um, so yeah, we took her to the vet, and yeah, it turned out sadly to be lymphoma, which you know they had said. My local vets were just kind of going, yeah, we'll put her on these steroids, and you'll see if she gets on. And kind of after about a week or so, I was like, but like beyond the steroids, like what is there? And they were like, well, it's really just the steroids. That's kind of how you would treat it. I was like, okay, so that's, well. And they were like, well, I mean, you could go down the chemo route if you wanted. And I was like, okay, that's kind of what I was fishing for. So yeah, we luckily I still had a bit of money. I no longer do. Molly cleaned me out, but luckily I still had a little bit of money in the bank, so we were able to buy her about an extra 7 or 8 months. They said without the proper treatment, without the chemo, generally most dogs you're only looking at about 30 days, which I just thought was mad. For yeah, lymphoma, because it's such an aggressive form of cancer. So yeah, a lot of dogs would only get about 30 days or so on the steroids. So yeah, we were able to get her treatment, and luckily most of those extra 7 or 8 months was a good life. She'd have a couple of bad days. I remember when we were away. Yeah, we went away last year, and this was our honeymoon slash anniversary that had kind of been booked for a while, and it was like a 3 weeks before we were due to leave was when we kind of found out what's happening. With bloody hell. So she started her treatment, and like, so the in-laws were going to look after her anyway. But yeah, there was a couple kind of a scary moment while we were away where she wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking, and it was just like, oh, need to just get home, just get home, make sure she's okay. But she was okay, and she didn't really have many dodgy days after that. It was a good 6-7 months we had with her. And what was I going to say? This is what I mean. I talk in circles, and I forget what it is I'm even talking about. But yeah, it was really only in her last kind of few weeks you started to see little issues going. Oh, I thought she wasn't doing that before. She wasn't doing that. Another thing as well, she had gone deaf as a post. In a bit her last year. But yeah, there were little things. She sometimes she'd start to struggle going up the stairs. Like her little. Now she was getting on. She was 14 and a bit. Her little hips would be at her, but then other days she'd be fine again. But yeah, there wasn't really like a deterioration where you'd kind of see, she's doing pretty bad compared to her face got grayer probably, but apart from that, she was absolutely like it's funny, like looking at videos. There were I found a video from like 2 months before she died, and she was the field near her house. She was running about around the field playing football with my nephew and stuff, and she didn't know she was sick. She didn't know she was old either. But it was only really about 3 weeks before she died, where it was kind of starting to get a bit hairy. So this is a kind of a ridiculous thing, and I haven't kept up. I don't know what sort of legislation has come in, if anything has come in. So the treatment she was on was she was on a few things. She was on something called Samolin, which was to help her. God, I can't remember if it was her liver or her kidneys. I think it was her liver, because of the chemo tablets she was on. And the chemo tablets she was on, which I forget the name of, it was essentially a one size fits all kind of job. They were very, it was a very strong dose, and so she was initially on a different treatment. It was called CHOP, and it's all these different tablets, and it was really effective for her. And she went into remission, and that was brilliant. But the remission only lasted a couple of weeks, maybe a month. Her little, as I used to call her, gobble bobbles, her little swollen glands started to kind of rise up again, So they had her on different treatment. These different just one big chemo tablet. It's annoying me that I can't remember the name of it now, because it would make the point I'm making a lot better. So I looked it up there. Yeah, lomustine was the treatment she was on when she came out of remission. Then, and the side effects were much stronger on her. Luckily, only for about a day or two. And then she'd kind of come back to herself again, but she'd get a bit more lethargic, and I think she was a bit more nauseous and stuff. For a day or two after, it'd be trickier to get her to eat, and you'd almost have to trick her, try her on a slightly different. Oh, she's never had this food before, and then it would kind of, she's like, oh yeah, eating. I remember that, it's the side effects did kind of start to have an effect on her. And what was peculiar about the situation with this treatment with the lomustine is, for whatever reason, the biggest veterinary hospital in the country couldn't get smaller doses, so it was one size fits all situation with these tablets. And Molly, for a border collie, she was a little bit on the smaller side, but the dose, every dog, no matter their size, seemingly got this same dose. So I mean, if she was a much bigger dog, a Saint Bernard or something, probably wouldn't matter too much. They'd probably take it. They might be a bit groggy, and then they're okay. But her poor little liver was getting more of the was kind of bearing the brunt of the treatment, and that kind of came to a head one night when she had a seizure. We were going to bed, and Molly stayed in our room. There was never, it was, we had these ideas of, when we moved into the house, Molly will have her own little room, but I mean, she was she was too cute. You couldn't stick her in her own room. Her bed was right beside ours, so it was nice to just, during the middle of the night, reach down, but there's a little fluffy neck. Okay, I can go back to sleep now, Yes, we're going to bed, and it might be good for people that kind of recognize possibly how a seizure might start with a dog. In her case, she just started very aggressively, kept doing this, and at first I thought she had something stuck in her mouth, like maybe a hair or something got stuck in her. But I was like, it's just a bit weird. And then after the hair, or after the licking, I'm trying to remember. I think maybe her paws maybe started she started stretching her paws out, and I was like, oh, okay, no, I think this is a seizure. So we called the vets, and then she came out of it, but we were like, we should probably still go to the vets anyway. So a bit of a drive. We got there, about, I don't know, 2 a.m. maybe, and we eventually by the time she got there, she was kind of okay. She was still a little kind of following eyes, or following fingers with her eyes. Her vision still seemed to be a bit off, I think. But they took her in anyway, and they were like, yeah, we'll try some stuff, and we'll call you tomorrow, kind of thing. And when they called me next day, we kind of had that conversation about, it might be time to take her off this treatment, or, so this is what was peculiar. So UCD, which is the biggest veterinary hospital in the country, they didn't have these smaller doses of the treatment, but they had said there was, if you went up north, because they're in the UK, different regulations or whatever, they were able to get these smaller tablets. But then it turned out there was a smaller vet in Cork, and for anyone not from Ireland, Cork is the exact opposite of up north. But for whatever reason, he was able to get these smaller doses that UCD couldn't. And so we had Molly booked in. And this was the thing as well. Because she was now having seizures, they gave us this medication. It was essentially epilepsy medication. For all intents and purposes, she was now epileptic. And what was really sad was, so when we went to pick her up from the vets the next day, we could hear her barking and everything as we were going in. They were like, "Oh, she's in good form. You can hear her barking there." What was really sad was they had given her the first dose of the epilepsy medication, and because it makes her a little bit lethargic, a little bit nauseous, whatever. We never heard her bark again. So she, I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, we got her home that day, and they did say, look, she's going to be a little bit wobbly on her feet. She'll be a little bit lethargic. She may be a bit nauseous, won't eat as much. So we weren't kind of too worried for the first day or two. I hated giving her the medication. It was kind of a syringe, and it wouldn't inject her. It was just a squirty syringe. We'd have to squirt it in her mouth, and she just hated it. You should always fight it, but I mean, once it had quite a nice smell. Once you squirt it in the mouth, she would just be like, yeah, that's actually not too bad. But it was a fight trying to not get the fingers chomped off me. And Molly wasn't an aggressive dog. She wouldn't bite. She didn't. I don't think she was trying to take me fingers off. It's because you're having to wedge her mouth open. And but yeah, unfortunately, what was going on was the side effects of the epilepsy medication had kind of hidden the fact that her liver was failing. Over that week or so, her liver essentially was pretty much since the seizure. I think the seizure was, her body had kind of hit the wall, if you like, in terms of the side effects from the chemo. So her liver started shutting down, and we hadn't seen it because, this medication. I'm looking up, and there was other people going, look, I have my dog on this. Like, I'm really worried. Like, what do I do? They're like, they can barely walk anymore. They're not eating. And people are going, no, same happened with my dog. Trust me. After 2 weeks, she'll normalize. It'll kick in, and like literally that Saturday night, we were looking this up because we were starting to worry. She was really. She couldn't walk unaided. If she wanted to walk around the back garden, I kind of had to get my hands under her belly and help her walk around. I'm like, this, and we'd only taken her to the vet on the Thursday, maybe the Wednesday, because UCD had said, look, her liver enzymes are spiking quite high. So the tablets she was on for her liver, they were like, you need to double her dose. So we did that. And then we took her to the vets, and the vets kind of did. They were like, look, she needs this test, this, this. They tested for everything. They asked them to. And the vets like, yeah, her liver things are a bit high, but they said, they weren't too worried. And even seeing the way she was walking in the vets, they didn't seem that concerned. So it was still a bit surprising to see kind of just how quickly it all kind of took a toll on her, that was on the Wednesday or Thursday in the vets. They're a bit wobbly, but they were like, yeah, no, she seems all right, We'll keep an eye on the liver enzymes, or we'll keep an eye on that because they are a bit on the high side. But Yeah, no, yeah, it was the Wednesday. Yeah, because Thursday morning UCD called us. They were like, "Yeah, we got those results back. You need to start doubling her liver medication today." Like, I don't know, we were out of the house. Like, as soon as you get home, give her a second tablet. So I was like, okay, this is getting bad. Um, and then yeah, that Saturday night, um, we were there with her because we could see she was getting a bit twitchy and things like this. So we're like, we'll keep an eye. I think we kind of had a feeling. Um, we knew that we knew the day would come, and I always kind of had it in my head that, well, the ideal way, the nicest way that I had in my head would be, they'll put her to sleep, we'll be in there with her, I'll be holding her little paw, whatever. But I didn't realize there was a better way, and not for us, for her, for Molly. Um, so on that Saturday, I was like, I decided I'd sleep downstairs. She was lying. There was a big rug on in our. Oh God, she loved rugs. She loved just move. We had different rugs with different textures in every room in the house. And some days you just hear her upstairs thundering around because she just go, I'm gonna go try out the other rug now, and she just have like a rug tour on any given day, just moving from room to room. Um, but yeah, so that Saturday night, she was on the rug in the sitting room. I decided, I'll sleep down with her tonight, just to kind of keep an eye on her. If we have to take her out in the morning somewhere, uh, oh, they also gave us other medication to give her. They're like, if she starts seizing, um, give her this. It's it was don't want to be too graphic about it, but well, it was a suppository medication. If you don't know what that means, it wasn't in her mouth. So they were like, look, if she has another seizure, get this, administer it, and I was in the sitting room on the Sunday morning, and she was there, and I gave her epilepsy meds, and same thing. She wasn't really into it, but once I gave it to her, she started drinking it down. So I was like, okay, she seems okay. And I'd say it was about half an hour later, she what I thought she was having a seizure. She just suddenly stretched out, and I was like, oh, you having a big stretch? And I scrambled. I got to medicate. It was just there in the room beside me, and I'm unscrewing. I'm like, come on. And I think she was already gone. It was I think that stretch. It wasn't a seizure. I mean, at the time it was. I kept saying it, and the more I thought about it throughout the day, I realized it wasn't a seizure. That was just um. It was just it was her last breath. Um, and for her, I think it was, I don't like to think about, what sort of if she was in any kind of pain. She was likely to have been, um but at least in terms of her surroundings, her situation, the way she went, um she was at home. She was on her big huge rug that she loved. She was at home. She knew where she was. It was all her familiar smells. I was in the room beside her. She wasn't just on a vet's, on a just some sterile table in a vet's practice, or at it was, she was at home. She knew she was with her people. Um, and she got to just go. And it's like I say, it's funny to kind of think, well, no, there's she didn't go the way I wanted, but it's like, no, I think what we got was even better. Like I say, for her as well. Um, because, yeah, like, not to repeat myself too much, which I also do a lot, but she knew where she was. She knew she was at home, and yeah, so it was just it was nice, I think, for her to kind of be somewhere peaceful and somewhere familiar when when the time came. Yeah, and sadly, I think her after all that, I don't even think it was really the lymphoma, the cancer that took its toll on her. I think it was the such strong side effects of that treatment. Just her little liver couldn't take it anymore and just packed in, And if it was easier for dog owners to be able to get access to a more a more reasonable dosage of medication for things like this, like, I mean, by now it's been 6 months. She probably wouldn't still be here by now anyway, but we might have been able to give her another couple of months, and you tie yourself up in knots, kind of, which I did, but I suppose that kind of brings me to the whole reason I think I wanted to kind of make this video, as, I mean, one, for paying tribute to Molly, but also to kind of show people what it looks like 6 months down the line. Like, I still miss her, and I still have moments, but it's not, most of my memories of her now are, I just laugh. I smile, I laugh, and, like, sometimes I'll cry, sometimes I'll get a bit teary. I've managed not to during this, but things will hit you, but it doesn't last as long, and it doesn't ruin your day. It doesn't affect your life in the same way. Those first, and for a lot of people that aren't dog owners, they might not really get it. And I've had people like that. I remember in one of my jobs a couple of years ago, a woman worked in my office. But we didn't work in the same office yet, but she worked in the same building anyway. Her dog had died, and she took like 2 weeks off work. And I remember somebody going, "Oh, obviously I'm not going to name her," but I remember somebody saying, "Oh, so and so, oh, her dog died, and she took 2 weeks off." They'll roll their eyes. And I remember thinking, yeah, I probably will as well. And that was exactly what happened. Yeah, it's I know that there is a movement in Ireland at the minute to try and get employers to recognise pet loss as a real loss, because it is, and people that don't get it, I don't really begrudge them or anything like that. It's like people connect with pets, with dogs, with cats, whatever. But I've always been a dog person. Don't mind cats; they're fine. But yeah, it's it does hit. It's like, in Molly's case, she was 14. I got her when she was 2, so I had her for 12 years, and I mean, the not to dwell on them too much, but I mean, the losses and tragedies that I've kind of gone through, my family have gone through in the last kind of, really, over the last kind of 10 years. It's one of those things where, yeah, like Molly was there for all of that, and it's kind of strange then for, maybe that was, like, I kind of like to think of it, well, maybe that was her kind of gift to me, that was her I suppose purpose. I I'm pretty proud of the life I gave her. You know, it's like she had no shortage of walks and plays and treats. Like she was spoiled. She was spoiled. You know, and I kind of think, well, that's kind of how she repaid me. Then, you know, she kind of got to give me that kind of company and what's the word? Um, just a bit of calm. I think when I needed it in those moments, you know. Um, but yeah, pet loss, like it is such a devastation at the time, and I remember how I felt in the first 2 weeks, especially that first, you know, week after Molly died, and I made the mistake. I would say to people, this probably is a mistake. Is maybe don't go on Reddit and forums and things like that when if you have a pet and it's hit you, and this is how you've stumbled across this video, um because I did, and it's you are mostly reading from people who are still in the depths of it, who are still at kind of that in a kind of real low trough with it, which is like I'm not criticizing anyone for being in that place with it. That's where I was with it as well. But what helped me, I think, was seeing videos from people who were, you know, a couple of months after, and being able to realize, oh yeah, you don't have to feel that way every day. You're convinced you are, um, but I would say the trade off is worth it. Because I mean, for me, you know, I had people, I had someone ask me the day, I think the day she died, someone texted me going, "Oh, I heard about Molly. Are you gonna get another dog?" I'm like, man, I don't know. I haven't, you know, we haven't even gotten, you know, we haven't even, she hasn't even been cremated yet. I haven't really thought, like, because it wasn't really about, oh, I need a dog. I specifically wanted my dog still here, you know. Um, I think now 6 months on, I think I'm kind of at that place where I could have room, um, for another dog, but like, and some people would rush to get a dog, and again, I don't begrudge them. It's other people have different speeds for it. For me, it wasn't just that I had a a dog, you know, a hole in my heart. I had a Molly hole in my heart, so it was like another dog wasn't going to nearly broke there, nearly broke, but I held it together. Another dog for me wasn't going to fill that void, fill that hole. It would have just reminded me even more how much I missed her, you know. Um, but I think I'm kind of at that place now. No, we're not about to go out and rescue a dog tomorrow or anything, but I think enough time has passed that it's um I do have room for another dog again, I think, but that'd probably still be a long way down the line. Um, but yeah, not to kind of get sidetracked too much again, but it's worth it. I think is basically the point I wanted to get at. You know, it is devastating, um, when they go, and it does feel like, well, no, but this is how I'm always going to feel. Um, so if anybody has stumbled across this video and you know you're a week, 2 weeks in, and you're it feels intense, and you're like, no, it's always going to feel like this. Trust me, I was convinced it was always going to feel that way as well. It does. If it feels permanent at the time, but um after a while, after, for me, like I say, it was about 2 weeks. I just noticed it. I still missed her, but it didn't. Everything didn't seem as grey. I kind of started to see the color again. Just in my surroundings, you know, it's like the fog lifted a little bit, And then one day after about 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, oh, I'm actually enjoying myself. I'm actually having a good day. You know, um, I would say for the first however long it takes for you, a week, 2 weeks, just let yourself feel it. You know, if you need to cry your guts up and you know, look at their toys and hold their collar or whatever, you know, do it. Um, it absolutely does dissipate. You know, and different people be different speeds. For me, like I said, about 2 weeks. Some people it could be a bit longer. Um, but it does just do well to remind yourself that it absolutely isn't a permanent thing. You you will still miss them, but it's really not likely it's going to be at the same. You know, it's not going to take you over like it does at the start. Um, you know, like I smile a lot when I think of Molly now. Um, and yeah, it's just it isn't permanent. Um, let yourself. I mean, like, you know, again, I'm not trying to be preachy. Different things that work for different people. Um, for me, I think really just let myself feel what I felt in the first kind of week or two really helped, you know. And oh, also don't start looking up dog cloning because it is expensive. um, I looked it up and I was like, oh wow, it actually is a thing. But you know, that's the grief that you're trying to chase. Um, you know, cling on to your pet. Um, and wouldn't be the same. I can't remember. I think it's Barbara Streisand that I think has actually cloned her dogs. But I mean, for me, it would just be a bit. It would be too. I mean, if I had that sort of money, who knows if I would have tried it. But you have all these memories of the dog you're looking at, and they have no memories of you. You know, it's just a dog that looks like your dog, but that relationship is like is one sided now. They're gonna have a different personality. They're not gonna remember who you are. You know, um, it's for me. It was a peculiar road to go down. To kind of go, wow, this actually is a thing. But yeah, it's worth it. You know, when they go, you're gonna have the worst week or two of your life. Like let's be honest about it. You know, but because I mean, if you're in that now and you're watching this, you probably know how bad it feels, but it absolutely doesn't stick around, you know. I say you know a lot as well. Apologies for that. I'm trying to cut that out, you know. Um, but yeah, you'll probably have the worst week of your life, pretty bad second week, and then things will get a bit better. But it's absolutely worth it for the joy that they'll give you in those years. You know, however long you get, 10, 12, 15 years. Um, in the first few days after Molly died, I was like, man, I can never put myself through that again. No way am I getting another dog. I'm not doing that to myself again. I'd absolutely do it now. You need to just kind of give yourself the time to recover and come back to yourself again. And that that pain, that initial pain, you know, however your dog went, whether it was in an accident or they got sick or whatever, you know, at the start you'll keep reliving that. You'll question decisions that came up to it. You go, oh, if I've done this, or but it fizzes out, and after a while, it's just the good stuff you remember. Um, and yeah, I would absolutely do it again. I'd say for anyone that's kind of at that point where I was at the start, we're thinking, no, I'm not doing it. I can't put myself through that again. I would say it's totally normal to feel that. Honor your dog by being sad about them, or your cat. I mean, I keep saying dog a lot only because that's my situation. But I mean, whatever your pet was that you've lost, um, you know, a seahorse, whatever, if you had that connection to them. I saw a peculiar video. Well, with a peculiar point to make, I thought it was somebody from like an institution of some kind talking about pet loss, and they were saying, yeah, it's like people need to understand that pet loss, is real, and the grief is real, which obviously I totally get, totally agree with. And then they were like, yeah, dogs, cats, fish, less so fish. And I was like, that's, for me, that was a strange distinction. If I was now, again, I've never had particularly close bonds with any fish, but I mean, if I was a fish owner and I'd had a connection with a fish and go, okay, right, they're acknowledging that, and then they say, well, no, not fish though. Why make that? Why make that distinction? Why make the grieving fish owner feel strange for grieving their fish? But yeah, I feel like I probably haven't paid tribute enough to Molly, rather than just kind of talking about her kind of the circumstances around her sickness and everything. But I know, so maybe I'll just kind of round this off, sign it off by just kind of talking about filling in the gaps a bit on how, like, again, I see I'm laughing thinking about her. It's just random little silly things. Like, oh man, the day we discovered she sang along to bagpipes, like, that was just brilliant, and it led to a habit that we still have, where you'd be watching TV, you might be watching TV late at night, and bagpipes come on. You'd always be scrambling to mute TV because you didn't want her to start singing and like annoying the neighbours, or you just didn't want her getting woken up. She's sleeping away. She could have been out cold. And once she heard that the screeching, wheezing din of the bagpipes, you'd see her just kind of. I was like, oh, Molly, please. No, I'd never stop her. I'd never stop her doing it. It was I loved hearing it every time. I'm trying to think what other like peculiar little things she had. There was also a lot of stuff that we thought was so unique to her, that the more kind of you looked into border collies, you'd kind of go, all right, no, this just does seem to be a border collie thing. I thought that was a unique Molly behaviour. But what was the yeah, there's the same out of the bagpipes. There was just the way she'd greet you as you came to the door. She'd give you affection for 1 second. You'd come home and she'd run to the door and she'd go, oh, and you go, hey pal, give us a rub, and you'd start rubbing her, and her tail would wag for 1 second, and then she'd walk away. She's like, right, I'm done. That's all she needed. That's all she wanted to give. And then same in the evenings, you'd be in the sitting room, you're watching TV, and she's just lying on her little. We bought her a little sofa that we had it in the window, so she wanted it. She could sit up on the sofa and look out the window. And yeah, she'd be happy. Once she got her plays and her walks in during the day, she'd be on her little sofa. But every once in a while, she'd walk over to you, and you go, okay, she must want something. She must want a treat. She must want go outside or whatever. And she'd just come over. She'd stick her she'd stick her head on. Stick her chin on your leg, and if you didn't react, she'd keep doing it. Like, oh, did you not notice? Did you not notice my chin was here? And it would be surprising because she was sometimes emotionally withholding, where you go, what? And you'd start rubbing her, and her tail would start wagging. Go, what do you want with it? It's like, it's still wagging. Her tail's actually, she hasn't started. And then give her a few rubs, and she would go, oh, make a little noise. And then she'd go back onto her sofa, and it's like, oh, wow, she actually was just coming over to get a rub. That's like a dog. like that thing that dogs do where they show affection. Um, so yeah, she was a bit withholding. So when she did show affection, you knew she really meant it. Um, what else? She had. We used to joke she had a goldfish brain. Her brain did seem to reset every day. Especially with new people. Sometimes with new people she could be a bit scared of them. Depending on the person, some people she would take to quite quickly, but it was rare. I remember an old housemate of ours when we lived in our apartment, um, and Molly for whatever reason she didn't take to him. Um, He'd walk into the room and she'd hide under the table. But one day he gradually won her over throughout the day, and he'd call her over. She'd like walk over and he'd give her a few little rubs, and then maybe he'd lift a hand up and she'd be like, What's oh, I know he's still just rubbing me. And yeah, one evening, yeah, he won her over by bedtime. She was coming over to him for hugs and for rubs and stuff. I was like, okay, good, she's cool with him. Next morning, she's in the front room. He walks in and she's like, who the hell is this guy? She goes and hides under the table again. But yeah, she was the best little doggy. I obviously miss her. I miss her little fluffy ruff, as I called it. So she wasn't the fluffy. A lot of border collies are a bit fluffier than her. She had very sleek, very short hair, but she had a big fluffy collar. It was like those Jacobean ruffs, so I just called her fluffy ruff. All around her collar was just big fluffy neck, float down into her chest, and you get a nice little scratch at the front of her chest and her neck. But yeah, she was great for giving the paw as well. Like she never refused the paw, even when her hearing went. You'd be going, "Hey, paw, but then realize, oh yeah, she can't hear you." So you'd have to do what she'd do with that. You'd have to kind of go, keep exaggerating it, and she'd go, "Oh yeah, there you go, paw." But like you take one paw and you go, "Now the other one," and she'd swap hands and give you the other one. No, she was so well behaved as well. Like she'd be sat in her front garden, she'd be sat out at the front gate, and there'd be dogs across the road barking, going mad at her. She's just looking there, going, "What? Oh me?" Going for walks. She was like I don't know, like a beacon. I don't know. We'd be out for a walk. We take her, around the block, and every house she'd pass, every house she passed that had dogs in it, they'd all be barking at her. She wouldn't bark back at any dog. She'd just be like, most times she wouldn't even hear it. Sometimes she'd be like, "Oh, they're barking at me." Oh, okay. She'd just carry on sniffing. And by the end of a 10-minute walk, you'd have our entire estate of just dogs in their houses barking at this completely silent dog. Just like, oh, so funny. But yeah, I don't know. I say I didn't really have a plan or anything scripted or really knew what I was going to talk about here. I just kind of wanted to sort of talk about Molly a bit and hopefully leave a kind of, a grief time capsule for anyone that might be at the early stages of it. Because like 6 months later, I wouldn't say it doesn't like bother me or anything. I still have moments, but it doesn't weigh me down anymore. I think that's the big difference. I do just carry her with me now. And it was something I had always dreaded. You have a dog, inevitably, it's going to happen. You're likely going to outlive them. And it was a day I'd always dreaded. But the reality, I remember, I'd see like friends' houses, they'd have the pictures of their old dog that died a couple of years ago, and I'd be like, man, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person with, I remember, oh God, do you remember Molly? The thought of it just seemed so surreal. Like, just that thing about doesn't bear thinking about. But the reality, I don't think is as bad as the fear. Again, the first week or two yeah, that felt how I expected it to feel. But a few months later, you do just kind of go, oh yeah, like we still have pictures of her. We're meaning to get framed and put them up, and we've just put them off. Um, but yeah, the I mean, well, the the first few days we actually did. There's a picture of me with her in our front room, just beside our fireplace, and I had to turn it away. I remember that the first few days after she died, I was like, I can't. It's like if I'm gonna look at pictures of her, I need to know. I need to be ready for it. Um, but a week later, I turned it back, and I was happy to see it there, and it's still there in the fireplace. I'll just be watching telly, and I'll kind of glance over. Oh yeah, there it is. There's Molly. Um. So yeah, look, I've rambled enough here. I've probably spoken about an hour. I was planning on talking for about 20 minutes or so, depending on how it went. But yeah, so, any other pet owners, dog owners out there, um, going through the same. 6 months later looks a lot different to a week later, um, and it is all worth it. I think it's so worth it, and I hope I hope I go through this again, because it means I'll have got to experience the love of another dog, or maybe another two or three, who knows, throughout my life, and um yeah, it's just it is absolutely something I would do again. Um, it's so worth it for the joy, for the love they'll give you in however many, however long you have with them. Um, so yeah, I think I'll sign off. I think I'll bring my little Molly pillow. I actually can't remember which is the right way around. Which side was her? I think her spots were on that side. It's more confusing because I think, oh no, it's not mirrored. I don't know, but yeah, it's another thing as well. I mean, that there's the little fluffy ruff. Sorry, I was blocking me out. See what I mean about her little fluffy ruff there? I do miss giving her little fluffy ruff rubs, but yeah, like it's this this isn't the face of someone still in a deep grief, or still in this like devastating loss. So um, it is clarity that comes a bit later. You're not gonna have this sort of clarity a week in. Um, but yeah, I'll sign off for now anyway, and I don't know, maybe I'll talk about Molly again down the line when I'm a bit more coherent and have a bit more of a plan of what I'm going to say. But yeah, for now, I suppose anyone else out there, um, if if this rambling video helps even one person kind of go, okay, yeah, right, I can see, I can kind of see how things might look down the line, or might just put other things into perspective, or just to kind of see that it's definitely not just you. It's such a common thing. The main thing is don't feel a lot of people, and I do think society generally is probably shifting when it comes to um pet loss and pet grief. um it's probably normal that some people might feel a bit I don't know, might even feel daft, feeling that sad about it. Um, some people might, and like if you're the sort of person that you've lost a pet, and I took a day off work to you know do what needed to be done, then I was back in work. That's cool. Some people kind of deal with it differently, but to expect that to be the norm for anyone, um, it's just not going to be. A lot of people had much deeper connections with their pets, and if you find yourself in that same thing, just let yourself feel it. Don't try not to um let any kind of like a societal kind of stigma be like, no, but I think, you know, don't feel daft over it. Of course you're going to miss them, especially, I mean, like, I don't have kids. I mean, if you have kids, especially, I imagine that'd be even worse. You know, it's a pet goes, and in some cases, you know, you might have a 10-year-old kid, but your dog has been around 15 years, and you're like, well, geez, I've known them even longer than I know my own kids. You know, of of course you're going to feel devastation. You're going to feel loss and something like that. But you do, like I said earlier, you stop feeling the weight of it after a while. Um. So yeah. I would say let yourself feel whatever you have to feel about your pet. If you spend the first couple of weeks looking at pictures of them and listening to videos of them making funny noise, I had an audio clip of Molly just, she was just asleep doing like a, and I was listening to that, and it was like, it was making me cry, but I was like, I felt like, no, I'm getting stuff out, you know. After about a week or two, I stopped listening to it. I still have it, but you know, I haven't felt the need to go, oh, I want to listen to her breathing again, or, you know. But I'm probably going to keep repeating myself and talking in circles here if I don't kind of wrap this up. So yeah, you know, and any other pet owners that might stumble across this, and hopefully it's of some help to you. Um, hopefully you can wade through the hour of waffling to find a couple of little moments there that might have been of use to you. Um, yeah. Right, I'll sign this off for now. Right, take care of yourselves. Good luck.